Welcome back to WRPL. It's the podcast where we talk about all the things we were watching, reading, playing, and listening to. My name's Ben.
And I'm Steve.
Hi, Steve.
Hi,
You
Benjamin.
saw a movie this week.
I finally saw a movie in
So what was
theaters.
it like being in a theater again? It's been so long. Has anything changed?
Uh, no, not at all.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I wanted. Uh, I was
Keep it
just,
classic.
yeah. I went on the very first showing of the day on Thursday to see this movie that we will talk about later in the
Yeah, it's a
podcast.
big secret.
It's a big
We
secret, yeah.
didn't mention it last week at all.
It did bum me out that there was maybe 20 people in there
Oh,
and in
really?
the biggest theater. But school still in session.
Sure.
And it, like I said, it was the very first showing of the day. So
Okay.
there's reason. But when I came out, there was definitely more people in the lobby going
Yeah.
to the concession stand. So I was, oh, that's good because I want this movie to make money.
And apparently it's made quite a big chunk for
Yeah.
its first opening days.
And I think it just might be the theater I go to.
Sure.
It's also not doing great.
There was a lot of people in my theater. Actually, the spots I normally take were taken.
Mm.
I had to pick one. There was like 3 seats in the middle somewhere. And of course, it won't let me pick the middle one. No, you can't leave an open seat. Yada, yada. So I picked one of the random ones and I just sat in the handicap spot. Nobody ever sits there. And I'll choose it. Just let me take the handicap assistant spot. I'm like, no, you're not with a handicap person. You don't get to sit here. Like, I get it, but I'm going to sit there anyways. Okay, well, let's start with a roll. Let's see how we're gonna do.
I feel good about this particular
Here
episode.
he goes
again. They haven't heard me start.
Putting his juju on.
Yeah, I'm gonna put some juju on it because this is the first time in a while I've consumed this much content.
Yeah,
but I'm
pretty big
willing
list
to talk about. So let's go. I'm gonna say 19.
Okay. Oh, damn.
I'm going high, baby.
Oh my god. Oh my god, Steve. 4?
Yeah,
4?
It's a 4.
You're pathetic. All right, I'm gonna say 19.
Oh, it's 12.
Ah.
For a second in the shade, it looked like a 9.
I think we should do something special if we both roll the same thing. That hasn't happened yet. Obviously, two 1s, big deal. 2 20s, big deal. But if we both got like a 17, we should, I don't know.
Blood sacrifice?
Or something.
All right,
some kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, blood sacrifice.
Okay, well, before we get started, I have a trailer came across one of my many social media feeds, and I knew just from the name, from the poster, this is something big, and it may change the course of everything. Did you see the trailer for Crackoon? in the vein of Cocaine Bear, with our cheap asylum film knockoffs to just cash in on the next popular thing, there is a movie coming out about a raccoon that gets into this new. It's not just like regular crack; it's like super special, deadly crack that's it's killing the local people. And of course, it turns into a murdering raccoon. It's a little hand puppet that's just like
perfect
off the side of the frame of the camera and just like chewing on people's necks, and it's just the head bobbing up and down. It's really pathetic looking, and I'm very excited. It looks so cheap and stupid. But the thing that makes me the most mad is I didn't think of the name Crackoon. That's so clever. It's perfect. Steve, you lining up for Crackoon?
Well, no. But I would like to check out this trailer. I feel like I can already see it in my mind's eye of exactly what this trailer is.
And
I did see a
lower the budget in your vision.
Of course. I did see. I don't know if it's real, but I assume it was. It was Cocaine Shark was a thing that is happening. Not in terms of not the Elizabeth Banks is directing it. It's just a
it's not a cocaine trilogy.
It's just they saw Cocaine Bear. We'll ride that train to Cocaine Shark.
You can't use the same drug. That's so boring. If it's Mushroom Shark, but I don't know. That sounds like an Avatar monster. Ketamine Shark.
Meth Shark.
Meth Shark, yeah.
I think it'd be kind of funny just to see a shark. There's people partying on a boat and someone is about to inject themselves with a needle, but the shark's fin bumps the boat and whoa, the needle falls out, goes right in, injects the shark. The shark gets hyped up and murders everyone on that boat. There's your first.
That makes more sense than cocaine because, like, okay, the cocaine gets in the water, they breathe through the water. Yeah, I get it, but you can't. Yeah, like the bear in Cocaine Bear does lines. You see it do.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right.
not just eating it. What's a shark gonna do? How are you gonna do a line in the water? That's not nearly as fun. I think it needed to be like Gravity Bomb Shark or something
Well,
like
there was
that.
that scene in Finding Nemo where the shark smelled the blood and his eyes got really dilated.
Sure.
It's so someone does so much drugs and the shark goes to eat that and the blood
Oh,
seeps out, and so it's just getting high
okay,
off of the
okay.
blood that it's eating off this
What
person.
if it's people who are smuggling drugs up their butt, and then he eats those people,
Hmm.
and then he gets the cocaine?
That you could do that too.
Yeah. Well, I hope it's not just one
But
shark. I hope
so
it's a lot of sharks.
the people who are smuggling cocaine up their butt
Uh huh.
are going to the ocean. Why?
They
Because you
forgot
smuggled
it
it.
was up there, and they're just on vacation.
Got it. Perfect.
It's some sort of a cartel thing. It's a smuggling thing. Oh,
Sure,
we.
sure,
It
sure.
doesn't have to be in the ocean. It could be, oh, we're in Mexico and we're trying to get to Texas, so it's the Gulf of Mexico and they're crossing in a boat. It could be something like that. But smuggling is not just for planes. There's other modes of transportation. The butt's a very
Yeah, but
safe spot.
you, you smuggle it up your butt to get past like TSA to get on the plane, and then you can take it out on the. You
It's
don't. If you're on a boat, there's no
yeah.
reason to put it in your butt in the first place. Is what I'm saying.
Well, maybe it is.
Well, we're spending too long on this. Pass. Pass.
Okay, so we have this is like week 2 of shows that have come to an end.
Hmm.
In the past 2 weeks, we've had four of
Either
our shows
finales or
or
series.
seasons. Yeah, series or seasons. So I want to talk about Ted first.
Okay.
So Ted season 3 came to a close, and it was a very good season finale or series finale, I should say. I really enjoyed it, except one major part. And I just would like to ask, can you guess the part I had a problem with?
Is it the wedding?
The wedding at the very end? No,
Okay.
no.
A lot of people had a problem with Ted not being at the wedding,
Yeah,
but
Beard. I mean, that's his guy.
yeah. I don't know if you saw, but Beard did do an AMA where he answered a bunch of questions.
Oh,
That was one of the
okay.
questions he talked about. But anyway,
No, my part was the Sound of Music, Von Trapp family.
oh right, 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 right.
Big musical number of So Long Farewell. I knew they were going to do that. Like the moment you could tell they had something planned, Roy's being a little cheeky, and then they cut to him. I said, I bet it's that because I just had a flash of Family Guy doing it years and years
Hmm.
ago, and like I'm not a big fan of that movie. I'm not a big fan of that song. And one of the stipulations of anybody who does that song for their show, they can't change lyrics, they can't make fun of it. And if you notice in the Family Guy one, they don't throw a fart or anything in.
Hmm.
It's played pretty
Sincere,
straight,
yeah,
and that is by the rules of the people who own the rights to the music. You can't fuck with this. And the fact, knowing that, and just knowing how this show is, I knew this was going to be just so sweet and making my skin crawl. Like I understand your secondhand embarrassment more now. Like I picked up my phone and looked away while it was playing because I was embarrassed seeing all these grown men putting on these big smiles with this performance. And if I could take that out, I would say this is like an A plus finale for a show. Put that in there, it's A minus max.
yeah. I mean, it didn't bother me in that regard. I thought it was fine. I would say it's one of the weaker bits of the episode,
Mm-hmm.
just because it is silly that all these grown men would do such a thing. But we've seen this sort of kind of thing
Yeah,
throughout the past 3 seasons, so it fit in the world.
it absolutely
And I think the thing that
works.
actually does save it is the end where Ted goes, "That was perfect, guys," and then they all freak out so heavily, like
Mm-hmm.
they're so excited that they were able to do it, and they're like, "Yeah, he liked it," kind of thing. That I thought their energy at the end was funny, and that kind of saved it for me. Uh, but did I need that performance? No. But did it bug me? Not really. There's other stuff that the team has done where I'm like, all right, come on.
Yeah,
So this was fine. But I'll say that I think in terms of season, possibly series finale,
mm-hmm.
or this is a series finale, and then there's spinoffs, whatever they decide to do. I think it was pretty perfect. Great finale, no complaints. My wife cried, I think, 3 times during this.
What is she, a girl?
God, emotions. But yeah, I think it paid off a ton of stuff. It made nods to plenty of things from the first episode and throughout the series. I think on the whole, the final season has its ups and downs. It's not as strong as maybe the first two seasons, especially because my two of my favorite characters on the show were actually Keely and Rebecca, and they got little to do, especially Keely.
Yeah. Poor
I
Keely.
I forgot Keely had a whole
Jack.
girlfriend to the
Yeah.
Jack arc because by the last three
Pointless.
episodes, I feel like was she even there in those
Yeah.
episodes?
They really had nothing for them to do, so they made up this thing for her.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter in the end. Oh, she loses her funding. She's going to lose her PR. No, Rebecca, the super rich person, is just going to bail her out. Like, oh, okay, so there's really no stakes to this.
Yeah. And then you have the Roy Jamie question, and that doesn't get answered, which is fine.
I like that.
I like that she chose to just do her thing for now.
I think she would have chosen one of them if they didn't give her this kind of ultimatum. Yeah. But I'm glad they did it because I know a lot of people probably felt that, well, that's the end of her story. Who is she going to pick? Like, why does she have to pick either of them? So it was nice that they I
was half expecting her to go, I picked both, and they kind of look at each other like,
okay, all right. Well, we've gotten this close.
Then it just becomes a cussy thing. It's like, all right, you have her Monday through Wednesday, and I have the weekends or something.
Yeah. You know? And it's like, no, Sunday, it's all together. And tries to make things happen, and they're just like pushing each other away. Yeah, that could be funny.
All right, so do you have a favorite moment?
I think this has my favorite joke in the entire series.
Oh,
in this episode. So Ted and Coach are on the plane, and Coach fakes like an appendicitis to get off, and the stewardess is just like, do you want to go to the hospital with your friend? And he just kind of smiles and goes, no, I don't think I will. And the stewardess walks off and says, what a fucking asshole. because like this whole series is nothing but like everybody loves Ted. He's the nicest human being, and how you can see someone do one kind of shitty thing and assume that they're the worst fucking person. This person has no idea the good that Ted has done in the past few years, and just writes him off on this one thing. That had me dying.
Huh, all right. I do like that as a human moment to show how simple it is to change a perspective on somebody. Because we've all run into random people, or we've seen someone out and about, and I was like, I can just tell that person sucks. But you don't know what that person might volunteer at children's hospitals every day of their life, or donate to the homeless. And you and I don't do that.
No.
So we're probably bad people.
But they don't know it.
But they don't know it. Yeah.
Favorite part for you?
Favorite part for me? Probably from a character emotional standpoint, I really liked Roy finally joining the Diamond Dogs.
Okay.
We all saw it coming. Don't get me wrong. He was going to have his moment. But my
I love whenever Ted is saying like, "Go ahead, you can speak." It's just like, yeah, by all means, go on.
When they were trying to run the final play, and they're doing here do the Oscar, the ESPYs or whatever,
which I did not remember.
I didn't remember.
Had to have been explained to me by a TikTok video. Yeah. Thank you, random.
But just seeing Jamie do this like silly run dance, pass me the ball, please, just to try and like get everyone to go on him. I don't know. Just I've loved Jamie this past season.
Yeah.
Because just his accent and just the way he says certain words is every time he says it's so funny to me. Just like early in the episode where Zava sent the giant avocado. He's like, holy guacamole. I'm not going to do the I can't do it right.
Because it's a British person doing like a Spanish sounding word, or an actual Spanish word.
But just the way he says holy guacamole just made me laugh. I think Jamie's great. I love him. And I'm sure there's probably a ton of moments in this episode that I'm just blanking on at the moment. But perfect finale for me.
Another part that I really disliked, and it's they did it earlier when Roy was wearing the tie-dye shirt. They make a big deal about it, and that's the joke. He's wearing a colorful shirt. Very funny. So in this episode, he says like, "Hey, I want to be a Diamond Dogs, and how do you know if a girl really likes you?" He wants advice, and they're all looking around like they're looking for hidden cameras.
Right.
Oh, isn't this a big joke that Roy's actually asking for help? And that shit's fucking annoying, because it's like a kid who doesn't want to spend time with their family, stays in the room all the time. They decide to come downstairs, eat dinner, watch a movie with them, and the parents go, "Hey, look who came out of their room for once." Like, you're just reinforcing that behavior you want to change. This person is asking for help, and you guys are like, "Wow, the big meanie is finally asking for help." That's just going to make someone shut it down, and I hate that. It shouldn't be played for laughs. I get what they're doing, but it's really obnoxious.
I see your point, and I'll say it's a fair point, but I didn't pick that at all, and I think you're right in a lot of cases, but these are also adults where
Sure.
that is an example from a child's perspective, but that's fine. But also, that's kind of now Roy's never been a jokey person, even though it's just like, look what you fucking done to me in that one episode. But I mean, you rib your friends, and this is Roy joined the group,
Sure.
and it's not like they're putting him down. It's like, wow, we're surprised you want this, but okay, let's get
But this
into it.
whole season has been him lightening himself, and everybody's very much aware of how much he's changing, and he's getting to like this peak, and they have to like shit on him for it, and I don't like that.
I think shitting on him is a strong word,
Maybe it's a little too
but
strong, but I didn't like it.
fair.
Another joke I really loved was what's Keely's CFO
Barbara.
Barbara. When they're like, "Oh, Barbara, do you like soccer?" And like, "No, I'm into rugby." Like more men like piled on each other and blood.
Blood.
And then when that guy takes the ball to the face, she just like stands up and cheers. I'm really glad that character came around. She was a little insufferable in the beginning, but
Mhm.
that's the point, And then my final thing, and I posted it on our Twitter. During the wedding, they're panning to a bunch of people, and these fuckers show up, and I'm like, who the
Oh, I
fuck
remember.
are
Yeah, I
they?
remember them. Yeah,
I guess they're from the Beard episode.
yeah. She's the one who fixes his pants, and he's the guy who like chases him away. But then they
Like,
kind of become friends at the
I
end.
I get it now.
Yeah.
Did not remember. I don't remember most things from that episode. But when they showed up, I thought like, oh, is that Rupert's ex that was also named Rebecca that had a kid, and this is her new man, and we're just supposed to go, oh, look, she upgraded to big buff dude. But yeah, that took me by surprise.
Hmm.
I have no idea who those people were. But I do like that Rupert looking like evil Nick Fury coming out onto the
Oh
field,
yeah,
just a super villain. I'm glad he truly got shit upon.
yeah. The one villain who didn't get redemption in the
Yeah.
show, and rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I'm glad that they kept some semblance of reality. Like, yeah, not everyone turns good.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, her line of "No matter who wins today, a team that you love will win." It's just like really cutting.
mhm.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff. So will you miss the show, or are you glad it's over now?
No, I would
In
have.
quote, or asterisk next to it. Yeah.
I would have taken another season. It feels like it came out hot, burned bright, and now it's gone. And
Hmm.
sometimes 3 seasons isn't enough for a show. I think it is for this, but I think five. You do five, and then if you want to quit after that, that's a good amount of episodes to have. So yeah, I could have done for one more. Or
Because sorry to
no,
interrupt
no,
you,
no,
but
it's
I
fine.
also feel like that's the classic thing of what a lot of shows would do is, oh, at the end of this season, Ted goes back home, and it's been a year, and the Diamond, or not the Diamond Dogs, Jesus,
The
uh,
Greyhounds.
the Greyhounds, yeah, they've been doing worse with this new coach, and they keep trying to get him back. It's like, no, no, my son,
Mm,
whatever, and then for some reason, Ted takes the call and goes back to
yeah.
London, or maybe he's part of the new women's team, and
Oh, okay.
I liked that little detail,
That
them
was
starting a
fun.
women's
Yeah,
team.
and that seems like such a duh
Yeah,
thing. Like, of course, why wouldn't you do that?
of all the spin-offs you could do, I'd like to
Mm-hmm.
see the Keely and Rebecca show where they
Sure.
are running the new female the women's team,
Yeah.
and
So do
all
they
the
get
hilarity that could get
do
into.
they get a Ted like a female coach who's a lot like Ted, and they're trying to like get lightning in a bottle twice, but it backfires on them? Do they just get Ted back, or is no Ted, and you go a completely different direction with who this coach is?
Yeah, I think. Well, that's hard to say because my initial thought is they try and get someone like Ted, but there's only one Ted,
Yeah.
so they're not going to do that, and so maybe they're more of a Roy character, but she's actually more closed off
Mm-hmm.
because I would say that the whole, whether it was the point of the show or not, Ted Lasso has been seen as this is the show to sort of negate toxic masculinity
Mm-hmm.
and show men who care about each other and care about their mental health and want to get better
Yeah.
and improve and all that stuff and treat people properly. And so I think, you kind of go the other way and show maybe not toxic women, but
Yeah, but I can't. But I
I
think that
also don't want to show where like women are being nasty to
yeah,
each other
sure.
because that's not uplifting.
Yeah, it's not progressive at all. But in the like the shitty male behaviors, you can find that in athletes. But the shitty female behaviors, I think, are not in that profession. Because I think the shitty women behavior you would want to correct is like the pick me women or the ones who are, you know what? I don't think we should talk about
No,
this.
no, no, no. We're going. We're not qualified for this.
I
I'm just or the team. Well, okay, so Ted came there to fix the team. So
mhm.
the women's team is here's a bunch of women who are kind and loving and respectful, but maybe the coach is a dickhead
Okay.
in some way for whatever reason. Now, obviously, she'll be a fully rounded character and have her reasons for being this, or like maybe feels need to. I'm trying to compete in. I'm doing the women's team because I can't get to where I want to be, and maybe that's in quote unquote the men's division because that's considered the highest. I want to be
Mhm.
the first female coach
Of
of
a
the
men's
and if
team.
that means I have to be shitty to you guys,
Okay.
I'll do that because all I care about is winning. So then it becomes about Keeley and Rebecca and the team who are these kind loving people trying to shape the coach instead of the
Okay.
coach shaping the team. I don't know if they can
Okay.
really work,
Okay.
but
Now,
that's my off the dome pitch.
I okay. Here's a quick one, and we'll move on. I think maybe you kind of do an opposite thing. The coach is great, and the team leaves or they all get in trouble. Whatever team that maybe they buy, they're all a bunch of shitheads and they all get fired. So now they're stuck with creating a new team, and you're getting people from different parts of the world. So instead of taking a football coach to coach soccer, you're taking, like women's lacrosse and teaching them how to play soccer. You get like really good athletes from all around the world who may
Mm.
not be playing soccer. You probably most of them would be, but oh, this is a hockey player, and this is rugby, and this is softball, and you get them to play, and the team doesn't get along, and it's about making the team love each other because the team always seemed to be in pretty good standing with each other. They
More or
may not
less,
have
yeah.
worked as cohesively as they do under Ted, but then it's you take a fractured team who come from all walks of life and try to get them to play together.
Mm. Kind of like a inverse Moneyball kind of thing,
Sure,
where
yeah,
they're not very good at running, but they can really kick the ball far or something.
sure,
So
yeah.
we'll
It's
put that's yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Just using stats and stuff.
The only other thing I could see is you do a spinoff. Ted Lasso. He doesn't come back to soccer. He goes and does cricket or something. You put him in a different sport. I could see them pitching that. Like, come on, okay, it could be an American thing. You make him coach hockey. That's very different from everything, but it's close enough to soccer. Maybe he can make it work. I
Mm.
could see. I wonder how many of those pitches came to
Well, see,
Jason
we've
Sudeikis.
seen Ted in England, which is more or less. I mean, it's an English speaking country,
Yeah,
obviously, and so it's easy translation. But what if he did do? I don't know what the biggest sport in India is, but cricket. But it's like send him to a country
yeah,
where he's clearly the fish out of water
mm-hmm,
there, even more so,
yeah.
and has to coach in a completely different universe, really, on
Like
a sport that he
go
doesn't know.
gymnastics, something that's not necessarily a team sport when you're competing with they're individual, but they're all on the same team.
I just don't know if I need to see Ted Lasso
No,
do a thing again.
yeah,
I want him to be a side character who pops in every now and then,
mm-hmm.
but I don't think I need a Ted Lasso show anymore. Ted came because it's not about Ted Lasso. It
Mm-hmm.
never was.
Ah, yes, yes.
Da, 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 da.
And he brings it all around.
All right, next
All right,
thing.
moving on. Okay, so let's see. Let's see.
I'll say my thing real quick,
Okay, yeah, you
or
do
one of
one.
them. I watched Mythic Quest season 3.
Uh
I'm
huh.
now
Uh
all
huh.
caught up with the show. I won't say anything more that I haven't already said before. Great cast. I think this is probably the weaker of the 3 seasons
Okay.
because at the end of season 2, you kind of get a fracture of some of the group, and so I think the show is at its best when they're all kind of in the same room together. And I mean, they're constantly popping in. Like, there's a really great joke where two of the characters start their own business and they get in the elevator and they're like, all right, back to work. But they just bought the floor under them. So they're still in the same building, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a good show. I think you would enjoy it. Rob McElhenney is great, and the show really shows off his acting abilities. And there's some really sincere, heartfelt moments. I said before, each season they kind of do one episode that's different from all the others. And this season is the origin of Rob's character and Poppy's character. Poppy is her character's name, not her real name. And how they both kind of found their way to video games and then found each other. It's just a very sweet episode that you see how they kind of became who they became. And it just has really great talent behind it, and they're doing really impressive things. And I want to see Rob McElhenney direct a real movie, as opposed to just sort of the silly comedies he's doing for TV. And but he's so busy with the Wrexham football team. Who knows? But if you like jokes, check out Mythic Quest season 3. And
jokes? I like jokes.
So that's what I'll say. I'm all done with Mythic Quest now.
And Sunny's back like 5 days. It's like this Wednesday, this Thursday. Usually it's on Wednesdays. Coming back next week, so we'll be able to talk about that.
So we can cut out this part. But I just put on something because I was trying to get my son to go to sleep, and I haven't seen Sunny in a while. And I was just trying to find a random episode. I was like, let me watch the Island episodes again. So I watched the first 2 of the 4. And god damn it, 16 seasons in, this show is so fucking fun.
Yeah.
The Island stuff is so good. Dennis getting COVID.
Yeah, his coughing fit is ridiculous.
And Rob wanting to like have sex, or it's like, you can't put me with that guy. I'm gonna have sex with that priest in no time. And Charlie, I love when Charlie is kind of the smart one in the situation, and
like, he knows Gaelic, right?
Yeah, he knows Gaelic. He just thought it was gibberish.
Yeah,
it's Gaelic, but Rob finding out he's not Irish, he's Dutch, and then Rob's just like, "Oh God, I'm gonna kill myself, Frank." And he's like, "Kill yourself, then, bitch." Charlie's just so over. I don't know. There's just so much good stuff in those episodes.
Yeah, and then of course it's Danny DeVito eating a poopy.
Yeah, I didn't get to that episode. I remembered that part. Which is one of the funniest things I saw that year. So yeah, It's Always Sunny is still great. Yeah, and I can't wait for this new season.
And every time a new season comes back, they show their clips on FX, and every year I go, ooh, this is going to be the bad one. I can just tell. And they're always great. So I've seen the trailers for this season, thought the same thing. This isn't very funny, but when you take 2 seconds out of a 2-minute joke, that's not necessarily going to be funny, and it's usually just a good sight gag for the commercial. So fingers crossed, but I do have faith in them. So I'll do a quick one as well. A season 3 of a show that I really like just came to Netflix. I Think You Should Leave season 3.
Oh, yeah.
It's this guy. I don't know how he comes up with his jokes. Tim Robinson is so weird. And his method of comedy, I don't know, it's like Sam Kinison almost. It's hard to pin him down as something. I would also say this is probably the weakest season.
Okay.
But his comedy is always better on rewatch. The more and more you watch it, the littler things show up and just funny small things that you didn't catch the first time. So it's not a glowing review. It was very funny, but it wasn't as good as season 2. But give me a couple of rewatches, I bet it'll change. There's one joke that I really love. I don't know if you've seen it. I've seen it go around a few times. So he's in a drive-thru of a fast food restaurant, and after he pays for his food, he goes, "You know what? I want to pay it forward. I want to pay for the guy behind me. And hey, maybe he'll start something." And so he pays, and then he floors it and zips around back into the drive-thru to be the next person in line. And he's like, 55 hamburgers, 55 steaks, 55 milkshakes, 55 french fries, and orders this thing that's like $2,000. And then when he pulls up, the guy's at the window and just like, "What the hell, man? You can't start that." It's like, "But you have have to. The guy before you paid for you. It's like, yeah, that was you. And a woman pulls in behind Tim Robinson. Like, what's going on? He's trying to start a pay it forward chain. So she backs up to the speaker and goes, 55 burgers, 55 milkshakes, 55 pancakes. It's pretty good. And then,
that's a good joke.
It's a good joke. And there are a few of those that are just like so funny from the get-go, and some that you're just like, what the fuck is this? But give it some time.
All right.
What do you got next?
Should we talk Dave and then the
thing? Or should
I just go into comics?
Well, I totally forgot about Dave. Yeah.
Let's go into Dave real quick. So Dave's season finales, for me, have always been the best episode of the season. And this is a pretty impressive final episode.
Yeah.
But I'd say it's the weakest of the three.
Yes.
Because the other two I felt had emotional significance and had relevance to the grander story. But this just kind of felt like, here's a weird episode I'm throwing in. It just happens to be the final episode of the season. So
I gotta say, you were right. The last week, I was right. You said, "Oh, they're not sleeping together. It's probably the music video." But it looked like it. Like, watching the episode, you would have thought.
That's the trick. Yep.
So I concede you were right.
Yeah. The music video is pretty funny.
Yeah.
Very well done. I could see it being an actual little Dicky video. Brad Pitt popping in for his little quick cameo. I was like, wow, I can't believe they got Brad Pitt to do this thing. And then he was in it the entire episode. Yeah. Why did he do this?
I really need to hear the conversation of how that happened. Was it they met, he said that was funny, your show's funny, I'll do anything? Or was it calling in favors? Or what? I'd like to know how he
So the only thing I know about I read a article with him where they interviewed him about like getting Brad Pitt, and so they're just like, how the hell did you do that? And he didn't go into specifics per se, but apparently he wrote that episode with Rachel McAdams in mind, with Brad Pitt in mind, with Drake in mind. And he was like, yeah, my writers thought I was crazy, but I just kind of willed. I was just hoping, and I believed I could get them to do it. And so they wrote that episode for those people, and they just did it. I don't know who they had to call, or I'm sure they probably sent Brad a script, and I think he said, I maybe had to write a very impassioned email to these people to see if they would do the show. But it was always going to be them from the get-go, because I just thought, like, who's a crazy A-list celebrity I could get? Well, Brad Pitt is, like, the one I want, and then I'll just go down the list. But that's what I gathered, and that's crazy.
Yeah.
Because Brad Pitt doesn't do TV, I believe.
I was thinking about this. The last time I've seen him on a TV show was Friends.
Oh, right.
When he was, married to Jennifer Aniston.
But... yeah, he was married to the star. And it's also the biggest show on the planet at the time.
That wasn't a hard get. That was just, honey, would you do an episode if we write you in? Yeah, sure, why not? This is, because I was trying to think, maybe Rachel McAdams and Brad Pitt did a movie together and they became friends. And I'm like, I don't think they've ever done a movie together. So I was just racking my brain. And maybe Brad Pitt has been on other TV shows, but I can't think of any.
Yeah.
I didn't check his IMDb either.
So basically, spoilers at this point, the overall story of this episode is a girl who was working on set with Dave at his music video comes back to his house and says, oh, you left this hard drive that had some stuff for Dave, and also the footage from you always forget her name, from the movie of all the extra stuff that didn't get put into the movie. Dave has, and she brings it to his house, and then things quickly escalate where she basically takes Dave hostage, and Brad Pitt shows up, and then she takes Brad Pitt hostage, and hilarity ensues.
And Brad Pitt's on there because he wants to get into the music scene, which I thought was going to be really hard to watch, because Brad Pitt, you can tell, he's not a singer.
Oh, yeah. I thought he was actually going to attempt to rap, which I'm glad he didn't, because it was just Brad Pitt talking but with autotune, and it sounded well enough.
That's funny enough.
And it's funny enough, so...
And this woman we've seen in episode 1, she gave Dave a bust of his head made out of concrete that he just chucks in the dumpster.
Right.
Or at least chucks close. I thought she was going to ask about it. And like, I don't see it in here. And, Dave isn't always the best at thinking on his feet, and that would start the rock rolling down the hill of
Right.
her being pissed off.
So what'd you think of this episode?
I thought this was very funny, and I liked just how gung ho Brad Pitt was, and like, you need to kill this person. At first, he's just like trying to hit on her and sleep with her.
Yeah.
You can tell she's obsessed with you, and then passing down a little pocket knife to be just like stab her in the fucking throat. He's like trying to do it, and but let me ask you: if you were Dave, would you have stabbed her in the throat?
I don't want to put myself on Mike saying anything in particular, so...
Oh, I would have killed her so quick. If someone pulls a gun on me and like my life's in danger, your life is up for grabs. Fuck you. You're putting concrete on my genitals and stuff. No, I'm gonna slit your fucking throat. I'm gonna hold your hair and I'm gonna let you bleed out on me.
Dark. Well, I mean, sure. All right. I thought she was going to die when they threw the sex doll on her. I thought that it was going to like push her down,
yeah.
and they were going to be like, "Fuck it, let her die."
Yeah.
But we actually don't ever see what happens to her. So I mean, I guess theoretically she could, but I think it just kind of held her in place.
Yeah.
Because it's not like a super thick tub or whatever.
Yeah. I thought they were going to just kill Brad Pitt. I thought at the end it would say, in loving memory of Brad Luke Pitt, or Luke, quote unquote, Brad Pitt.
Right.
Which I had to look up. I was like, is his name really Luke? It's not. But it's also not. Like, Bradley's his middle name. I'll look it up.
Yeah, when he got... I was waiting for him to die the entire time. So when he got shot with the crossbow, I was like, oh, this is how he goes. But Dave's never done so much with altering history.
Sure. His name's William Bradley Pitt.
William Bradley Pitt. Okay.
Billy Pitt.
Billy Pitt. Gator showing up and just being totally oblivious to the whole situation is...
I thought he was going to take her out. I thought she was going to say something fucked up and him be like, oh, don't disrespect little Dickie about it, and then like take her out. I thought he was going to just like man up when he has a chance and just kind of like put the other two to shame.
Yeah, but I don't want to see Gator ever do anything violent.
Sure.
I want him to, despite his background, I guess, I don't want him to be a crazy person, quote unquote crazy person, who also has murdered people.
Sure.
I want him to be the kind of understated sweetheart of the group. But yeah, it's just weird that he couldn't pick up on what was happening here. And I know that woman was pretty normal.
For the most part,
when she had to like act. But I mean, she's pissing on floors and she locks Brad Pitt in there with a baseball bat. Okay, that's kind of a weird move to do.
Yeah. But then Dave like not running for the fucking crossbow, just thinking about himself, just thinking about how it's going to affect him. And
Dave strikes me as the kind of person who's never even been in a fight. So
yeah, or like maybe he got punched in the face and he cried, and then the bully felt bad.
He peed his pants.
He peed his pants and got made fun of even more.
Yeah.
But seriously, it's like run up and just push her on the floor and go, Gator, she's got a gun. It's something simple. He's not saying like jump on her, do some sort of luchador wrestling move or anything. Just push her over.
I'd be interested to see this actress's IMDb page and see if she's been in a lot of things, because what a sort of breakout episode for you where so much of the episode kind of hinders on your performance and you're going up against Brad Pitt.
I love how cool he is. Or she apologizes for pulling out the gun and he's just like, yeah, it's cool. These things happen. Yeah, let's just move on.
Yeah, it seems like the kind of situation Brad Pitt has dealt with a bunch of times.
Well, he seemed to have known. It's like, you have yourself like a grade A stalker or something. He has some terminology for it. Her name is Tania Intriago. She was on FBI, Shapeless, Castle Rock, Happy Death Day to You. Oh, she's student protester. Okay. Yeah, Law and Order. Oh, she's in Happy Death Day 1. She was in Preacher. Don't remember her from that.
So just like TV roles.
Yeah,
okay, this is right up her alley.
Yeah.
But still.
But yeah, that's about it.
Sharing the screen with Billy Pitt. All right, so where does the show go from here? Dave has survived this horrible incident. His
Mm-hmm.
the footage of him faking his death seemingly
Yeah,
doesn't get leaked.
whose footage was that?
That was
That was just footage from the shoot. When, like, that was
but
their
the
friend.
episode where the bus blew up
Yeah.
and
Okay.
they
Okay.
she was just recording them at
That's
that
right.
time.
That's right. That's right. For some reason, I thought it was like someone in that diner's
No, no,
cell
no. Yeah.
phone or something. Okay. I kind of wanted to see your shadow puppet video just to see how weird and stupid.
It was only like 36 seconds long.
Oh well, I mean, we only saw a little bit of it, but did it actually say?
I looked at it was less than a minute. I don't know if it was 36
Mm-hmm. Okay.
seconds. Uh,
But it
so
was just.
it was just a
But
hand
she's a
puppet.
superstar.
But she's a superstar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes delusion can get you only so far, and it's only for certain people.
Respect her hustle though.
Yeah, I guess.
She was going for it for sure.
Yeah. Anything else about Dave?
Well,
Oh yeah,
I was
where? Yeah,
asking
you were
where.
asking a question.
Yeah,
Where do you go now?
where does it go from here? His secret doesn't get out. It seems like he stops the stalker. Oh, and at the very end of the episode, he
Oh yeah,
gets a song with Drake, which I
yeah,
thought is actually a really funny joke. That the end credit song is "I'm on a song with Drake,"
yeah.
but you don't hear
You don't hear
Drake,
Drake.
or
Yeah,
like the only. I think Drake might be going like the doing a kind of
yeah.
thing,
Mm-hmm.
but I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, it feels like maybe they had two scripts for this final episode, and one was Dave goes to Africa and hooks up with Drake to do a thing, or we have this stalker one. Like, well, who can we get? Like, well, Brad Pitt's schedule is open, and Drake's is very limited. Fuck. Okay, let's just do this one because the stuff with Drake, if they didn't film at the same time, I would believe you. It looked fake as hell,
It looked bad.
real bad.
Well, that they definitely shot that in California,
Yeah,
and then just digitally imposed some
yeah.
stuff. But it was
But it was like he was on a green
yeah,
screen.
they couldn't get Drake to drive all the way out to that part. Well,
Yeah.
I think Drake is also is he still stuck in Canada for the COVID shit's over.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it was they shut all that in California, and then maybe Dave flew to Toronto or whatever to do green screen him there, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it.
Yeah.
Because
But I didn't think we needed this stuff with Drake. That seems like what season 4 should be. How do I get to Drake? And that's his new journey. He found the love. He's done his tour. Now the next thing is meeting his idol. For them to just tack it on at the very end
yeah, but I think
seems out of place.
that was because it also is intercutting him writing that message, and you think, oh, it's going to be to Robin. And you see
Yeah.
Robin looking at her phone, and then she cries, and whether that's he sent her a message saying sorry, or
Mm-hmm.
it's definitely over, or she just sees that he doesn't text. We don't know.
Yeah.
But the whole season was looking for love, and he found it. But he loves himself more,
Yeah.
and so he's going to do the thing that gets him the farthest because he wants to be considered
The greatest.
the greatest.
Yeah.
And so, who's the greatest right now? Drake's. That's my look. I'm looking for the love of my life. Drake is
Mm-hmm.
that love at this
Yeah,
point
okay.
because he's going to get me to the next level.
Yeah.
Not romantically, but I'll be theoretically at the top if I can be friends with Drake. And they have an awkward exchange, and it's fine. But once again, Dave is one of those shows that I enjoy, but a lot of times, oh god, the cringe stuff I hate. And I think this show has one more season in it. I don't know.
Okay.
No more than 5.
Yeah,
we said
5
earlier we were
should
talking
be-
about Ted.
Yeah.
5 is the absolute last season of Dave
Yeah.
I watch.
Mm-hmm. And I could maybe even see next season, say that tape gets out. He gets canceled, whatever, dropped from his label, and he goes, okay, now's my time for my rebranding, and I'm just going to be a normal person with Robin, and he's going to try to stay out of the limelight for a bit, and maybe for a third of the season we get to see Dave just trying to be a normal person. Maybe he shaves, cuts his hair, he's trying to just blend in. I want to forget all that stuff and try to focus on my relationship.
I think the last episode will be. I think the last episode of Dave will be. Look at all the stuff I've accomplished. Look at my crazy life. Look at all these incidents that happened to me. No one would be cool to show this. A TV show about my life.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
the final shot of this, he slaps the script on the table, and then just camera pans in on Dave. Credits roll. hip hop
Yeah,
song.
or hey, you do a Seinfeld and you make the season about him making this show and him casting a Dave
Mm,
and a Robin and all his friends and stuff, but then realizing no one can be me, and he wants to be in it himself. That you could go that route as well.
sure.
Yeah. Okay, well, we'll see you in a year, Dave.
Yep.
So I watched. It'll be real quick. I watched a movie called Reality, starring Sydney Sweeney and like two others. It's a very small cast, but is based on a woman who was like an intelligence officer, and she wanted to get deployed with the Marines, not the Air Force. She's a translator.
Hmm.
She knows like four languages, but she mostly works it with Farsi, and she is she comes home and there's like the FBI is there and they have a warrant to search her car and her house, and she's just kind of playing it cool, doesn't quite know what's going on, and they're doing that cop thing where they're being real nice, but you can tell they're slimy and they're hiding all the information, and like they got you
Hmm.
regardless of what they say. They already know. They just want you to incriminate yourself. This is based on a true story, and the whole thing comes from actual transcripts of them recording her in this moment of searching her house and asking her what the hell is going on. So everything is taken from the transcript, and they'll even like cut to audio. I don't think it's the original audio. I think it's just the actors,
Hmm.
but they'll show the transcripts. And when things are like blacked out or redacted, like the characters will just kind of like pop out of existence, and you'll hear like a and then they'll pop back in.
Hmm.
It's an interesting way to kind of break up this movie because it's all pretty much one location. It's just her house, and a lot of it is either just in the front yard or in this abandoned room that doesn't even have any furniture in it. It's
Hmm.
very stark. But she had printed out classified material about how Russia was actively working to hacking our polling machines, and she felt like this is something the world needs to know about. This shouldn't be some hidden thing. Uh, we should know who our enemy is. Like we're so focused on like fighting people in the Middle East when Russia is being the true enemy, and she gets like 5 years for it. She eventually admits to all of it. She dances around the whole interrogation, but she knows what's going on. She printed out, sent it to a newspaper. Information got out, tracked it back to her. Her name is her, and it's called Reality because that's her name. Her name is Reality Winner. That's her real name. Uh, so bizarre. And then she has like a sister, and her
Do they?
sister's named like Candace. And like, how the fuck do you name one kid like Candace and the other one Reality? It's bizarre.
And they never explain
Why her
why her
name is
name is
that?
that way.
No, it's just what her parents named her. Yeah, her name is
Well,
just
yeah, but that's one of
Reality.
those things where in another movie you would have had the two cops come in and go, Miss Reality Winner. That's an interesting name.
Mm-hmm. Like, oh,
Is that Dutch?
yeah,
Or like,
my
where's that
parents
coming from?
got pregnant when yeah, my mom got pregnant while she was on Lost, and she was the winner of that reality show, and thought, hey, wouldn't that be funny? I'm Reality Winner. Yeah,
Yeah, I
something.
just
But
something like
because
that.
it's taken from real transcripts,
Sure.
then and that doesn't happen. And even like one of the interrogators like coughs a bunch of times or stumbles over his words, and the actors do it like exactly how it is. So
Super accurate drunk history.
it's very interesting filmmaking, but it is a little boring because this story is a very small story of something bigger. The Russian hack of a fucking election, that's the big story, and this is one of the small things that would have been 2 minutes in a bigger movie.
Right,
So
right,
it's
right, right.
interesting to take that one thing and really show
Expand it out.
and expand it and show that like she's not some evil spy terrorist or anything. She just really felt the American people need to know what's going on with their government, and I'm with her. Uh, so it's hard to recommend because it is a little boring. But if you like Sydney Sweeney, she does an excellent job in this. She's not just the your typical sex pot actress that she's kind of known for. She's really doing a good job of someone you could tell who's kind of breaking but trying to hold it all together. Um, yeah, it's good, and it's different than what I've seen, but it's not the most interesting watch.
Mm.
So
All
yeah,
right, quite
yeah,
quite the recommendation.
yeah.
HBO.
HBO,
Yeah.
yes.
All right. I have one more thing. Well, I have two things.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but the first thing is something you read that you lent to me. I read Volume 1 of Die.
Yeah.
For anyone who may not have heard the
It
previous
was like
episode,
two or
whatever,
three episodes
two
ago.
episodes, yeah. Die is a story. It's Jumanji meets fucked up D&D,
Yep.
where a group of six friends get together to play a tabletop role playing game, and they each get their own die and get sucked into this world and disappear for 2 years. And then they come back, one's missing an arm, and then 25 years later, they all meet again and get sucked back into the world. Uh, so this book's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the art style. I'm
Oh.
not. I just don't care for what would you call it? Kind
It's
of
just
more watercolory, not
no,
watercolory, but
no. It's overly painted
overly
at
painted.
times.
Yeah. Not that it looks bad. It's just not my favorite style of comic to read. Uh, the Before I get into the positives, the thing I didn't like about it the most is the characters are pretty thin. And it's like the first 6 pages, you have the entire setup, and we're already pretty much back into the world. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
here's your characters with a very brief. This is the douchey one. This is the sad boy. This is the smart ass girl. I know they get sucked in the game,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next page they're back, and
Yeah.
then 2 pages later, oh, we're back into the
Mm-hmm.
game. It just the whole sequence goes by so fast.
Yeah.
I needed that to. I need to care about these characters going
Sure.
into the game as opposed to just one anecdote of who they are as people,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm sure they'll explore more
Maybe.
in the
I
stories.
hope they, as they go forward in the story, that you do jump back to some of their first Avengers, and it's not just, wow, we're fighting the giant venomous butterfly again,
Mhm.
like that time before. We don't see it; they just talk about it.
Yeah. Um, it just yeah, it's just give me a reason to care about these characters. Like I know that what their mission is. Their mission is to get back home,
Mm-hmm.
and they say how they got out of the game in the first place, where every person who's on the party has to say, "I wish to go home" or "I wish the game to end."
Mm-hmm.
But
But they also have to be in possession of their die, right? And
I
that's why one of them had to stay behind.
Well, one of them stayed. They defeated the Grandmaster, and but he wasn't fully dead yet. He was on death's door, and they were all holding hands, and they were saying, "I want to go back home." And as they're doing that, their essentially kind of leader, the guy who was running the game, gets grabbed by the Grandmaster and pulled out. So they all disappear, but he stays behind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he had
Twenty sided.
the 20 sided die, which I think was kind of like the controlling die.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they couldn't go back for a long time. So, because once they got someone sent them the 20 sided die, and that's how they get sucked back in. Um, but anyway, to what I do like about it, one, the idea of the new Grandmaster having two 20 sided die as
Mm-hmm.
eyeballs
Mm-hmm.
is pretty fucking cool.
Yep.
And I loved all their characters' power sets,
Yeah, they're
and their
different.
names are cool. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Godbinder, cool name, and the
Yeah.
ability to, oh yeah, I make deals with deities. They do me favors, and then in return, I do them a favor.
Mm-hmm.
Which, cool concept.
Yeah.
I like the idea because it's the fun idea. There's always someone like that one person in the group who wants to be cyberpunk, even though they're playing
Mm-hmm.
fantasy. But they're like, yeah, fuck it, we're gonna make you a
Do whatever
cyberpunk.
you want. Yeah.
And so she just has this technology ability, but she has to use up gold to use her abilities,
Mm-hmm.
which is like not that exciting, but she just has a cool look.
But it could be fun if in your game you're looting and you have this treasure and you're trying to save this money because you need to buy a ship to go on further adventures. And it's like, well, I can't fight unless I use this gold. And then after the big fight, fuck, I used all of our treasures just to defeat this guy. Now we're broke again. Like
Right.
there's an aspect to it that I
Sure.
can think is really fun.
I want to say my favorite character. Oh, it's like I want more for his character.
Mm-hmm.
I just if I was gonna pick one of these characters to play, it would be the Grief Knight.
Mm-hmm.
I just like the idea of just if you make me sad, that makes me more powerful.
Yeah.
Which I don't know. I think is cool.
Mm-hmm. And then to pair it with someone who can control your
Emotions,
emotions.
yeah. It's I was as I was reading, I was like, oh, that'd be real fun if because whenever you do a D&D party, everyone's like, well, I'm the rogue, I'm this, and they all
Hmm.
come from different backgrounds, which is fine. It's like, oh, it'd be kind of fun if you had a D&D party where all their powers really complemented each other. It wasn't
Yeah.
just you're the healer, you're the tough one,
Hmm.
you're the one who does support. It's like, oh no, I'm better when you're here
Yeah.
because your powers complement mine. I
Yeah.
think that'd be a fun D&D
Oh yeah,
game.
yeah. You're the bard. I'm the healer. Well, I can only really heal if I'm hearing your musical notes. Like I
Mhm.
have to hear something beautiful in order for the healing to work.
Hmm.
I
And
like that as
yeah, I
well.
think and that could add a fun element of play where it's just like, okay, well, this encounter will, you know, it this monster has the ability to eliminate noise. So now that bard can't play his instrument,
Yeah.
or you can't hear his instrument. So now your healing ability is gone. So it's like, okay, well, now we're gonna have to use up all the potions we had that we were
Hmm.
saving, and I don't know. There's just gonna
Yeah.
be a lot of fun stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, uh, so they kind of just they know their mission and they have to and they fight some monsters here and there. They have what their version of the orcs, which are called the Fallen, which
Hmm.
there's a twist as to what those are, which I also thought came at like a weird thing because it didn't feel earned. It was just like,
Hmm.
and here's a thing that's happening.
Yeah.
Where so the Fallen are they're orcs, although they don't look like orcs. They look more like I don't know, a mix between the orcs and those black gooey creatures from Edge of Tomorrow or something. They're just
Okay.
that's not a good example.
Yeah.
But you find out the big twist on that is all the fallen were people who were sucked into this world
Hmm.
and died and then just became villains.
Yeah.
And the only way that they can not be the fallen anymore is by killing the current players.
Hmm.
Uh, and it just kind of is explained in the last few pages of the first
Sure.
volume.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, but it just felt like I'm just saying it because, not because it was like that's something you reveal halfway through the
Yeah.
series,
And it's this
and it's like,
huge tragic
whoa,
event.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it's okay. Well, am I supposed to care about all these dead characters that
Yeah.
I've never seen?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
Uh,
I do like the dead character who was like forced to serve his mistress until she returned, and then but he died, and he's
uh-huh.
just this wandering
Wandering
corpse.
corpse,
Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and there was one last thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, so issue three, yeah, issue three is a very Tolkien
Mm.
heavy issue where they end up on the front lines of it's between Prussia and Little Englanders, which I thought
Hmm.
was kind of, but you pull from it. I get
Yeah.
why they do that. So it's hobbits in the trenches of like World War One,
Yeah.
and there's a dragon that's breathing fire at them, and uh, one hobbit dies and is about to die and wants one of the characters to write a letter to his family
Yeah.
or to his loved ones, and it's Sammy and Dolly. So it's just, oh, here's a hobbit talking about Sam,
Hmm.
and she even makes a reference to one of the main characters makes a reference to Mr. Frodo,
Hmm.
and she's like, "Well, I don't know how I'm going to deliver this letter." It's like, and then someone shows up. It's like, "Well, I'll just call the eagle," and an eagle comes. It's like, "Well, that's convenient," but then the
Yeah.
eagle dies, and,
Hmm.
and it's so sad because all these other little hobbits are like, "Sir, what's the message?" And they're like, "Oh, just war propaganda," and he just burns it. And it's like,
Yeah.
"All right, back to the front line." So he's just sending more hobbits to die.
Yep.
It's really fucked up,
Hmm.
but there was all this talk of, oh, Tolkien was writing about his experience in the trenches of World War One, even though that's Tolkien's come out and said like it's never the Hobbit or the Lord of the Rings was never about World War One, whatever.
There's a lot of similarities, though.
Sure, but uh, it was just like someone took all that Tolkien lore and kind of condensed it into what if the hobbits were in the trenches of World War
Hmm.
One, and it was a fun little nods here and there,
Yeah.
and so I really really liked that issue. Total fucking bummer though. So yeah, this series is not for children.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it
No.
is dark and
Yeah.
fucked up, but I liked it. It was
Yeah.
really cool.
And I'm excited to pick up the rest. And when I do, of course, I'll let you
I
know.
added it to my Amazon. They have a
A collection.
hardcover. Yeah.
Yeah, which pisses me off because it's like, hey, do you want to buy these 4 issues individually, or do you want this really cool hardback, volume, 2 set volume? That looks really cool. But what if this sucks?
Right.
So now I buy the first one to see if I like it. Well, now I want the thing, but I don't want to have 2 copies of the first volume. and so I'll probably just pick up the individual just to keep with the pattern. But it just drives me nuts. It's like certain DVDs. If you wait long enough, you'll get the cool collection. It's like, but I'm the true fan that's been buying from day one, and I have to deal with the normal bullshit, and then you want me to buy the collected bullshit just so I can have the cool thing? I'm talking to you, Nick. Yeah. Anywho, anything else will die?
I don't think so. If you're a fan of fantasy and Dungeons and Dragons
Mm-hmm.
and comic books, it's a perfect marriage of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Three things, whatever I said. I'm looking forward to seeing where the story goes. I think if I had to guess, it's going to be one of those where the concept I really love and I like the execution of it. I just wish they would spend more time with the
Mm-hmm.
characters and why I should care about them.
Yeah,
I think it's just going to gloss over that.
yeah,
And that's kind of a
you
bummer
want
for me.
8 seasons of 10 episodes each season, so you could really dive into it. And this is really like, no, it's one season, and we're blowing through this as quick as possible.
Yeah, it's The Last of Us, season one.
Yeah. There's this other book that I heard of. It's called like 6 Billion Genies, and it's like everybody on the planet gets a genie, and everybody gets one wish. So you could say, I wish for world peace. And the person next to you is like, I want to undo that person's wish. So it's hard to choose what do you want to wish for if someone can completely undo that
Mm,
sort of thing. I don't know all the rules. If you can, like, the first person just goes like, I wish genies never existed. And then nobody gets it. I'm not sure.
right.
But like, what kind of world would it be if everybody got one wish? Yeah. Pretty interesting. Okay, I saw a new movie. Big release this week. Huge. From the mind of Stephen King. I saw
Oh.
Boogeyman. Have you seen a horror movie in the past 20 years where a little kid says there's something in their closet or under their bed and the parents don't believe them, and then slowly a family member starts to believe the person and experiences the supernatural stuff themselves, and they do Google searches and try to seek out people who've also had to deal with this situation, and then eventually the parent does believe it, and oh yeah, and it starts off with a tragedy. Someone, of course, something horrible has to happen where you lose one of the parents, and then you all come together and defeat the monster. Have you ever seen that horror movie?
All of them.
Okay, then you don't need to see Boogeyman because it is exactly that. It's so by the numbers. It's not very interesting, but it's not incompetent. It's just perfectly fine. If you just like these sort of jump scares, something crouching in the shadow with glowing eyes type of movies, this will be up your alley. It's not the worst. The monster is kind of cool looking, and I do like some of the shots that they have. I'd say the best thing, it kind of reminded me of like Smile. Smile is very by the numbers as
Hmm.
well, but it's handled really well. Good actors, good cinematography, really creepy ambiance. They just grabbed any director. Like, you've at least done a few episodes of Law and Order. Cool. You know how to, run a crew. Uh, but there's a shot at the end. So the monster is just like this long, skinny, spindly.
They always
It kind of
are.
looks like a miniature Cloverfield monster, or maybe something from A Quiet Place.
Okay.
It's just so it's like elbows and knees are bent the wrong way, and it's got a gross face. Well, it unlocks its jaw and it opens up really wide, just like in Smile, and then two hands come out, and then like two full arms come out of the mouth, and then she's looking inside, and you can see like a second face within the mouth, just going like, "It's okay, honey, I got you." That was pretty creepy. I really like that. But then they just like light it on fire and it dies. And so the problem with these movies is
But it wasn't it was a human
it it
face?
it was, I mean, a gross human face. Like,
Oh,
might as
okay.
well just be another monster face
Okay.
because it also
I
can imitate your voice if it wants
gotcha.
to. So
Okay,
it's just
okay.
like, hey, why don't you come in the kitchen? And you're just like,
I just wasn't
what, Dad?
I just wasn't sure if it was like the girl or the kid's grandma or something, and
No,
then
no,
it
no,
was
no.
okay.
No, but the dead mom does kind of come back from the afterlife to help them in a way, because
Oh my god.
they do a thing of like they light a candle and go like, "Mom, if you're in this room, make the flame go left," and it doesn't do anything. So when they're in the basement, she has this lighter. It's not going to start, and then all of a sudden it flames up, and then it starts blowing to the left. Like, thanks, Mom, you came in the clutch, and then they light the monster on fire.
Eye roll, shrug,
Yeah.
sigh.
So if they just explain the rules, because it's just this thing of, oh, it feeds, it kills your kids, and it likes to toy with them because it likes to eat scare things. But and they say it's been around forever. But
So
like, what is it? It could be, yeah. Is it something, a cosmically spaced thing? Is it a supernatural thing? Because it seems like it can go in and out of shadows, like it can teleport through things. But they're also shooting at it and punching it, and it's attacking you. So it's also a physical thing. It's just like all ghost and poltergeist and exorcism movies. The rules are so vague that you can do whatever, and then it's not that interesting. But it's
which,
fine.
which I wonder if that's something filmmakers try and do. Like, you guys have been making the same movie for 50 years, and I understand why you're doing it. Money, it's
Yep.
easy. We can do it for
$2 million.
$20 million or
Yeah.
whatever and make 100. But what if we just tried a little bit harder? And they're like, well, and the producers or whoever, are like, well, you're the creative type. You can try and make it good,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't care about that.
Yeah.
So it's just like,
Use the budget you already have. Oh, I don't really have much more money. Fuck it. Send it to theaters. It's PG-13. Cool. We'll make our money back.
because I just feel like at this point, with as much content as we have, and we've seen great horror movies in the past, you know, decade or more. It's just we know what can work. Just do the things that can work.
Yeah.
Or is it those things work so well because we're so used to crap that when we get something different, it really shines?
Yeah.
Who knows?
Yeah.
But that's why I don't watch horror movies, because 90% of them are dog shit. But you love them because they're just fun, spooky things.
They always have good ambiance, and they're the ones that have creatures and monsters in it. So, I can't rely on my fantasy and sci-fi for monsters because sometimes the alien is just a human. It's just something stupid and boring like that. Sometimes the fantasy monster just has sharp teeth. Horror gives me all the crazy ass monsters, so I gotta watch horror movies.
Fair enough. All right. Okay.
You have a big special thing?
Big special thing. We'll see how special it is. So, just some context. My wife had a sort of a friend reunion happen the other day, and she was like, "I'm gonna be out of the house for 4 hours or whatever." And I was like, "Okay, it's just me and the little man. I'm gonna put on something dumb I don't care about and just watch that and kill time. Because if he screams through it or whatever, I won't be mad. And if he does, then I can watch a movie and it'll be great." So I decided I was gonna watch Fast 9 because it's the only Fast movie I haven't seen yet, and I haven't seen Fast 10 yet. So I was like, okay, this will be a good opportunity for me to watch that. And it was on HBO.
It's not called Fast 9. It's just F9.
F9, sure.
Because they can't keep any sort of pattern when it comes to these titles.
But I get to HBO, the Fast movies aren't on there anymore. Yeah.
What?
And I was like, it's been on my to watch list for a year. And on the day I finally decide to watch it, it's not there. I was like, oh, that fucking sucks.
Of course.
So I go to Hulu, I go to Apple, I'm just trying to find a movie that I feel like watching. And I get to
And Fast 9's not on any other.
No. I can rent it.
Of course.
But I'm not going to pay for it.
No, don't you dare.
So maybe I'll see if our buddy Nick will let me borrow it if he's got it, because I'm sure he does. Anyway.
No, he does.
So I get to Netflix, and I decide to watch RRR.
Oh!
Yeah. The movie anyone who was into movies was talking about, but the movie that most people haven't seen. And the only thing I knew about this movie was that it has an Oscar-winning song and the very brief clip that it plays like as a sneak preview on the Netflix if you leave it on there for too long, which was a man running from a tiger.
Yeah.
And it's 3 hours long. But because I didn't care about it, I was like, fine, whatever. It can just be background noise. Ben, let me tell you, and I say this with all seriousness, this movie's incredible. I love this movie, and I would I would be happy to watch it again. I don't have time to.
Yeah.
But if there was a period where we had 3 hours to kill, I would love to watch this movie with you, just to get your reaction.
Okay.
Now I'll say there's a lot of bad stuff in it. So the best way I can describe this movie is it's fight sequences of the Raid mixed with the laws of physics of the Fast and Furious movies, with the two main characters in a Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice kind of scenario, with the occasional musical number.
Of course.
This movie is all over the place, and none of it should work, but it does, and it's incredible. You have two human characters who are based on real people
Mm-hmm.
who are not superheroes, but in this movie they are superheroes by
Yes.
all intents and
Uh-huh,
purposes.
uh-huh.
You have there's one action sequence early in the movie where a guy single-handedly takes on essentially 1,000 people. He doesn't actually fight every single
Yeah.
person, but he jumps into a crowd of 1,000 people who are angry and who are beating him to a pulp, but he's able to like batter them away to try and get one man out of the crowd and bring him back.
Oh.
And it's incredible. Like the scale of this movie is really, really big at times. So just a quick synopsis for anyone, because this is not a movie I'd recommend to a lot of people, but it's worth recommending. But for anyone who hasn't seen the film or know what it's about, because I did when I started it, essentially a little girl gets taken from a tribe, and it's up to this man from the tribe to go save her. But also, there's this other man who works for the government, which is run by British imperialists. And so they're basically two guys on the opposite side of the law. And the guy who works for the British government, he is tasked with finding this man and stopping him because he's essentially a revolutionary. They don't want the people rising up against them. Uh, but in his search for this man, they save this young boy in this crazy sequence, and then they become friends. And then there's this like montage of them being friends, which isn't supposed to be romantic, but kind of comes off a little romantic. Or
Okay.
maybe it's just like two men riding on a motorcycle together, and one's just behind. I don't know what it is, but they're just friends, and then things escalate, betrayals happen, and just tons of action sequences. So,
For anyone who's wondering what happened to the sound, we don't know. I'm sorry. Steve's mic is acting all weird, but go on, Steve.
uh, so anyway, uh, the bad of this movie. Uh, some of the acting is questionable, but that's also I did watch it dubbed,
Mm-hmm.
and the physics of the world are absurd. There's one point where a character shoots the tire of a car that's driving away, and it is so comical because it's like someone flipped a coin. That's how fast this car is flipping. He shoots a tire, and it's not like it slow mo explodes and flips over once or twice. It immediately shotguns in the air and flips like 12 times and lands. It's ridiculous. There's fight sequences where a guy picks up a motorcycle is running at him. He kicks it. He catches it as it's going, and he's just like beating guys with this motorcycle. It's like this is a human man. He doesn't
Yeah.
have super strength. One guy shoots an arrow into a tree where one of the soldiers is behind it, and it doesn't go all the way through. So he kicks the arrow through the tree.
Nice.
Like the action scenes are really really fun. This whole movie is super super fun. But if you're looking for realism, this is not the movie for you. Uh, there's there's a ton of slow mo. It's like directed by Zack Schneider, but not as egregious. And they kind of there's also a weird thing where they kind of put an element to each character
Like
of
a
these two
like
men.
a fire element,
Yeah,
or
so
okay, of
one character's fire, one is water.
course.
And there's a really fun shot where they're fighting each other, and there's a fountain that has been destroyed. And so there's all these hoses that were in the fountain that are kind of waving behind him. And so that's like, oh, he's water. And then
Mm-hmm.
the guy he's fighting, a fire has reached some fireworks. So there's these fireworks going off behind him.
Okay.
And it's so dumb, but I don't know. It just made me smile. It was so silly. But it's an hour and a half until the fucking title card comes in. It's an entire movie before the movie starts.
Holy shit.
Yeah, it's a 90-minute movie to get to the title card, and then the rest of the movie.
Damn.
So, and it's also the first 90 minutes is this fun action movie where these two men are kind of hanging out and being best friends and kicking ass, and one of the guys meets one of the British women, and he really thinks he's like, oh, she's so pretty, but it's kind of like his in to get to the palace where his sister, the little girl who was taken in the beginning of the movie, is. Uh, so there's like a really thin love element to it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not really love. So the two female characters that are in this are kind of like really given nothing to do. Um, but and then the once it gets to the title card, then it becomes this for like an hour this political drama
Hmm.
where you kind of take away a lot of the action stuff, and it's more about imperialism and colonization of the. This takes place in a pre-independent India where the British have come and because they've taken over a lot of stuff, and then it becomes this like we need to rise up and defeat our British oppressors, and then the last half hour is just a giant action set piece that may adhere to some sort of gods or ancient warriors or something like that of India that I'm obviously not well versed in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I could talk about this movie forever, and it just won't do it justice until you see it. I would love to talk to you about it because the 3 hours really did fly by. That being
Mm-hmm.
said, I did pause at times
Oh, you're watching a
because I
kid.
was
Yeah.
watching a kid, and
Yeah.
I wasn't watching in one long chunk. I did check occasionally, like how far am I into this movie?
20 minutes. Can
uh,
you come sit here and we'll keep our mics kind of close
Yeah.
so maybe it will pick you up. Okay. Anyhow.
What was I talking about? But anyway, and so all right. Well, let's talk about the Oscar-winning song
Oh yeah. How is
sequence. So your two main characters go to this party that they were invited to by the British woman that the one sort of has a crush on, and they're it seemingly they're the only two Indian people there who were invited. All the other Indian people there were like waiters and stuff.
Okay. Is
And
everybody
so,
else white?
oh yeah, it's
Oh,
all
okay.
white people pretty
Okay.
much. And so the snobby British people see her dancing with the one guy, and it's like, well, we have to show this man what's up, and they kind of push him to the ground and like, what do these savages know about dancing? And one kind of shows off the flamenco and tango or whatever. And it's just like, you guys don't know anything about dance or culture or art, huh? And then in a sequence that I giggled when it because his buddy was seeing him getting picked on. There's this serving tray that got knocked on the ground, and he kicks it up in the air. It lands on a black man's drum set, and then he starts playing it kind of like I guess, an Indian drum set,
Okay.
and it had the same energy as. Hey, Marvin, it's your cousin. Or, hey, Chuck, it's your cousin Marvin. Marvin Berry. You know that new sound you're looking for? Well, listen to this.
Okay.
And so this guy who's this fantastic warrior that we've seen is also somehow really good at drumming. And then it becomes this giant dance number and the dance number is fantastic. Like how it's synchronized and they're using their suspenders to dance and it's very fast and fun. It's a really cool scene, but it's just so absurd to be thrown into this movie
Yeah.
because it really kind of comes out of nowhere. That being said, I know this is kind of a staple of
Yeah.
these kind of movies where you have dance numbers in here, but it's not a musical. But there's a musical moment in this thing.
Yeah.
And so then all the other British people kind of get in on it. And then it kind of becomes like a dance battle where you just have to kind of stand in place and run your feet really fast until
Okay.
everyone gets tired. And so, of course, all the snobby British people are just like, I can't keep up. And so then it's just your two main characters. And so, in order to make the guy look good for the pretty white girl, he like fakes like, oh, I got tired too, and falls over. And it's like, ooh, I'm the best dancer. And it was so fun. I didn't mind it, but it's so absurd.
Yeah.
Like there's so many sequences in this movie that are ridiculous.
I really would like to know culturally, why does every movie need big musical numbers?
Yeah, because
Like, why did it start and why did it continue? And does every movie they make do this? And is it a requirement or is it just we always do
a
this?
lot of them are 2:45, 3 hours long
Yeah.
plus. Like that's a staple too. And I'm very interested. I would love to learn more about cultural differences in terms of filmmaking because obviously as Americans we produce the largest number that go to all the countries or most of the countries. So they see a lot of our shit,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't see a lot of other countries' shit.
Yeah.
Not saying your movies are shit. I'm just saying shit is a general term.
Yeah.
But so it's like you look at something like anime, where a lot of staples are. Well, it's always set in high school, and we're always going to sexualize young people.
Yeah. Speed lines
and yeah, it's just like they have their staples of their things. Like, well, why do you have to make all these animes about that?
Yep.
It's just like I know why they're popular because the action scenes are really great and there's some cool character design work and some fun ideas. But there's a lot of dumb shit that you also keep doing, and it seems like this has a lot of those bad, not bad, but just different. It's like this is the shit you guys love, and I'm wondering, what's this like when you watch our movies? What's the shit in ours where you're just like, why do Americans keep putting this in there?
Or they go, this is the scene where you have the musical number. It makes the most sense right here, but you cut it out.
I would really like to have a conversation with people from different countries and go like, tell me about your movies and why you guys seem to be into this thing.
I'm sure there's a YouTube video out there. Yeah, so if anybody has any suggestions of like breaking down cultural differences in Indian movies.
So this is my first real experience with like a Bollywood,
and I don't think it is a Bollywood movie. Actually, I think it's not Bollywood. It's like Gollywood. It's a different. It's not exactly. So we may be being insensitive saying Indian and Bollywood and India, stuff. So sure, but I think it's a different. It's a different country that does it.
Well, apologies if anything I said was wrong, but I was just thoroughly impressed by the movie. I see why it's popular. It's not good filmmaking per se, but it's also just really well done despite its faults. And I had a blast. And if I would need to look back at my top 10 from last year, but I think it would make it on there.
Oh
wow! Because I had so much fun with it. And I would happily see more movies like this.
I'm sure there's tons of them.
Because I feel like as Americans, kind of the only intro we really had to this kind of thing is Slumdog Millionaire, which we don't really talk about anymore because it's been 15 years since that came out.
Yeah.
And that was also made by Danny Boyle. It just happened to take place in India with Indian actors and stuff. I was thoroughly impressed, and I think you should watch it, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Maybe you would think this thing sucks and it's too long and it's dumb, because you're not wrong, but I thought it was awesome.
It's been on my list, and every time I need something to watch, my justification is just, it's 3 hours. I'm not going to be awake that long, so I'm not going to watch it. Then I'll watch 6 hours of YouTube. It's just one of those things. I'll get to it eventually. Because my Mondays and Tuesdays, I don't watch a lot when I get off of work because I'm dealing with the podcast and I'm editing and posting it, and I don't have a lot of time. And then, my Saturday, Sundays are for generally new releases. So I only have Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And it's like, oh, this is the other new thing I wanted to see. Oh, a new episode of this is out. So sometimes getting that one random movie that's been on my queue doesn't really happen all the time. But
one last thing before we move on to our final topic. The song choices in this movie. So there's a bunch of original songs. There's the main dance sequence, and then there's another big dance sequence at the very end. It's like the credits kind of roll thing. But as action sequences will go on, there will be songs, and on the subtitles it'll say what's being said in the language, and their songs are just basically describing what's happening on the screen currently.
Yeah.
It's just we'll even mention characters by name and say, oh, they're from this area. And it's just, you're using songs where the songs are describing what I'm already seeing, just maybe with a little bit of flair, because it's like, oh, his heart burns with the fires of a lion or something. It's just sometimes it would just seem like nonsensical words and describing the plot. It's like, well, you don't need to do that. It's so weird. It'd be like James Bond when he's fighting people on a train going, and now he's fighting on the train. Bang, 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 bang. Don't mess with James Bond. It's like, what is this?
Yeah.
It was a culture shock for sure, but I loved it.
Cool. So let's get to the main thing. Our most important thing. We're at an hour and a half, give or take.
We'll knock this out in 30 minutes.
Yeah, because when talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, I can talk for a long time when I have a lot of nitpicky, dumb bullshit complaints. I can go on for hours. When you watch something that's a very good movie, it's hard to say much besides like, yeah, it was really good. I really liked it. So I don't know how much we will actually have to say, how long it will take compared to something like a Fast X, which you can just go on and on and on about how awful that is. But so Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, written by Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and a third guy.
We're going to do research one of these days.
Okay, so it was directed by Joaquim Dos Santos, Kemp Powers, and Justin K. Thompson. And it was Phil Lord, Chris Miller, and Dave Callahan. Mm-hmm. So I guess the original writer with Phil Lord isn't on this one. Okay. And then the other two came in, which I don't know if that was a creative thing or just like, oh no, I'm writing the Paw Patrol live action movie. I don't have a chance. But
Chris Pratt's playing Chase.
The fact that that there's one.
I have kids in my life.
What are the other Paw Patrol names?
There's Chase, there's Rubble, there's Marshall, there's Sky, and there's Rocky, I think.
Oh my god. I'm going to have to take your word on that.
Goddamn
right. So this picks up pretty close to right where the last one left off. I mean, it has been 9 months. I think they say a year. He's the next grade up.
Yeah. It's been like a year or something.
But I mean, if you watch the end of the first Spider-Verse, it ends with Gwen looking down on his bed, going, "Hey!"
It seem like it's been 2 hours.
Yeah,
but it's been a year.
Yeah. And so, Miles is growing up a little bit. He's, dealing with being Spider-Man. And then there's Spider-Verse stuff happening. There's a lot to this movie. But before we get into all the things, did you even like this movie?
I did. I think I like it less than the first one.
Thank you. Everyone's saying this is the best. I don't think so.
The first one is a tighter film.
Yeah.
And I think if you really start looking in this movie, you're going to find a lot of things like, well, why is that a thing? Or like that, I'm not sure if that really makes all that much sense. And I think my biggest complaint, though, also the fact that it's part one of a two-parter. It's not a complete story. It is a to be continued. Mm-hmm. It's like, but my biggest complaint, sometimes this movie is way too busy.
Yes.
Especially the first sequence.
With Leonardo da Vinci drawing as a vulture.
Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong, I love Da Vinci Vulture. But so with this, it's different art styles competing for screen time, and the other issue is it's Spider-Man. And what does Spider-Man do? He moves really fast and jumps all around. So it's 3 or 4 different Spider-Man doing all their Spider-Man shit while there's a Vulture guy flying around, and they're also all competing art styles. So there was periods where, like, I know they're fighting, but I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a bummer, because I feel like I never had that problem in the first one.
No. I think the first one, it takes a minute for your eyes to adjust because our brains weren't ready for something like that. Yeah. We were not used to its style. But now we are, and they feel they need to up it to an extreme level where even when people are just standing still talking, you see like shines rippling across suits and little lines flickering out. Nothing can ever just calm down and be still. There always has to be some sort of motion, and it gets a little, I don't want to say nauseating, but it becomes too much.
Yeah,
and I agree. I agree with you. When he's in the, I don't know, what's it called, the Nexus or the whatever, the place where all the Spider-Men are. Mm-hmm. It's just they're all chasing him, and they're trying to get you to go like, look at all these cool references, but you can't see anything.
Yeah, it's like you want to look away because you want to see a thing like that you may recognize, but by looking away, you're like, wait, I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
And so I would say a lot of people will say, you got to see it in the theater. You got to see it on the big screen. I think this movie is going to benefit seeing it on the small screen because also you always
always have a better picture quality at home. TVs are amazingly beautiful now, and if the theater didn't change their bulbs or if it's a little out of focus, it could kind of ruin that big screen experience. And I don't think this was amazing, and I do think it is the theater. The theater we go to.
Spectacular Spider-Man.
I think I can't wait to watch this at home because the blacks of my screen show up a lot more. The lights of my the whites the whites are whiter, the blacks are blacker, and everything is just going to be more in focus. And this was just too much to take in. Yeah, but it's still beautiful. Like Gwen Stacy's world is just like this really watercolory, dreamy sort of look, but everything's constantly dripping and changing colors. And
see, I'm glad you bring this up because this is the one thing I wanted to point out. I've seen a lot of people talk about how much they love Gwen's world. I appreciate Gwen's world, but it's also had the sequences I dislike the most. I think it actually has my favorite shot in the entire movie. There might be some because there's a lot of great shots in this film, but it's a very simple shot, and I think it's a shot most people won't care about. But it's a shot of her coming home, and her dad is standing in the doorway, and he is orange and warm colored, and he's the light, and she's across screen all the way to the right, and she's dark and cold and distant, and it's just a really nice shot. But then they come together, and then that's when the colors bleed together, and it becomes, and just them embracing. I was like, "Oh, this is effective storytelling through color and shot design." But then I hate all the shit where you get to the emotional ending of her storyline where she's talking to her dad, and then their backgrounds just constantly change for seemingly no reason. Like I understand like what they were trying to do, but it just didn't work for me because it just seems like you're just putting abstract art in the background for this. It was very distracting. I didn't care for it. It was much simpler when it wasn't. You weren't doing an art piece, and you were just kind of keeping it simple.
We need more Puss in Boots and less, I don't want to say less Spider-Verse, but Puss in Boots has some amazing action sequences, and you know exactly what's going on each time. And this one, you get a little lost in the shuffle.
Yeah. And I mean, you would get lost in the shuffle when there's 400 people coming after one guy at the same time. But that being said, fun chase sequence.
Yeah.
But maybe we're getting ahead of ourselves. So there's the Spider Society, and they're traveling through different dimensions. We meet Indian Spider-Man from Moonbatten, which I thought was pretty fun. Spend a good amount of time there, and they save people. And
okay, so in that action sequence, you have Spider-Gwen, and you have what do they call him? Is he Indian Spider-Man?
I mean, I think he's just Spider-Man.
He's just Spider-Man, but like I thought that Spider-Man, like there's a huge chunk of a building that's like falling into the city, and they're web swinging it, and they're holding it back as best as they can. They do okay, but it falls. Like, did you actually think that was going to work? In just a couple scenes earlier, it took Spider-Gwen, what's her name? It's not Jessica Jones, but the pregnant motorcycle Spider-Woman, and Spider-Man 2099 to hold up a helicopter. They're straining, and they're just screaming, and they're using all their might. And like, it's just a helicopter. You're holding a side of a building with one less person? Okay. It's
one more person, because they have Punk Rock Spider-Man there too. So
he wasn't helping with that. It was just because it was Punk Rock and Miles. They were doing something else. It was just Indians
because they were saving people, and the other two.
Yes,
Okay.
But let me take it back to the beginning real quick. So we spend
back to the movie. I think let's take it back to the movie.
Yes, because this movie feels the need to recap Spider-Verse Part 1 like twice. And it takes us like 15 minutes to introduce Gwen, and she's telling us all about her life, and we're fighting the Vulture and everything. And then we finally get to Miles. And then we have to do another 15, 20 minutes of him telling the story all over again. And it feels like we're repeating a bunch of stuff from the first movie to catch everyone up who didn't maybe see the first one. And I'm real sick of that. Anybody who doesn't see previous versions of movies, you're shit out of luck. I mean, that's great that you're going to go see this, but you're on your own. We don't need to hold everyone's hand for every single movie because, and that only really is there for these opening weekend theatrical runs. Once it's on home video or whatever, it's more annoying that they're recapping things that are, in 10-15 years you could watch that and go like, why are they recapping this? It's been out forever. I hate it. It's only for a short amount of time is why we do this, but the movie will last forever and you don't need that sort of stuff. So it just takes so long to introduce these characters, and then we finally meet Spider-Man 2099, Miguel O'Hara. I called him like Robbie Reyes last episode, and I cut that out because Robbie Reyes is the Blue Beetle, and that's racist on me. And then we finally meet him, and they finally tell us, oh, it's all about the Uncle Bens and the Captain Stacy's, and they need to die, and yada yada yada. And it's like we finally get into what the story is about, and we're an hour and 45 minutes into it, and then we kind of rush to an ending that isn't even an ending. It is an effective cliffhanger, and is not where I thought it was going to go, but it just felt like we were just spinning our wheels of setup, spinning our webs, just to get the setup, to get it going, just to go nowhere. So I do really like this movie. I think it's well done, but I think we've covered a lot of the ground already.
Yeah, so I do like the idea of, well, two things. One, I think it's, so the first movie, Miles was the odd man out because everyone he interacted with the exception of Gwen, they were all Peter Parkers. Mm-hmm. Where everyone on this team now, no one's Peter Parker. Oh. They're all their own separate people who just happen to be Spider-Man. Yeah. Which I kind of liked. It's like, we've seen Peter Parker a bunch of times. These were the Peters training him to be his own Spider-Man, and now here's other Spider-Man, which I liked. And we finally did get Peter B. Parker or whatever. From the first one, he shows up because he was Miles' mentor and stuff. I'm glad he returned because I'm just a big fan of Jake Johnson. So I liked that aspect of it, that we saw non-Peter Parkers as the focus. And the other thing that has now slipped my mind was...
Let me spin my wheels trying to find what I was going to ask.
Yeah. And I like the idea of the canon events and that kind of thing. It's just all Spider-Men are connected in this web of fate, and it can't be changed. And like you said, like either Uncle Ben has to die or the captains have to die, which made it seem, well, when they were explaining, it's like, yeah, all Spider-Man's captains have to die. It's like, when was Spider-Man's captains like that fucking important? It's like, I know Gwen's made sense because her dad was captain, but was there, like, I don't remember Peter ever interacting with like the police too much in my Spider-Man
I'm sure there's plenty of runs, but it's like whatever. Amazing Spider-Man, I guess.
It just seemed like this is a thing that they were just making up for this. And it was fun seeing all these cameras, but I think it would have been more effective had we not kind of already seen Tobey and Andrew No Way Home. It's like, that movie was, oh, look at the cool things were brought together. And then this movie was just like, well, we're going to do that, but times 10. Yeah. It's like, we've been down the multiverse road. We've been down the not other things road. But I think this is the most effective way to do that. Sure. Because animation, you can just do so much more.
I think, because like we see Tobey Maguire, we see Andrew Garfield, we don't see Tom Holland. That was interesting.
They're saving him for the next one.
Yeah, sure. They should have cast, like, say, what's his name from Room and Good Boys?
Jacob Tremblay?
Yeah, cast someone like that, put him in a Spider-Man suit, and make him crying over his own Ben Parker, and show other live-action Spider-Man that we have never seen. That would have been really fun.
Yeah.
And then we get you want to just talk about the biggest cameo, the thing that no one, there was not even a leak. There was no hint to this. This really took me by surprise.
Yeah. Fucking Donald Glover's in this.
Yeah, as the Prowler.
Yeah, which was always kind of talked about ever since he appeared in the very first Tom Holland Spider-Man, playing Aaron Davies, who would become the Prowler, who is Miles' uncle. And we don't know if that'll come to fruition, but if it doesn't, this was them kind of going, hey, look, this is what it would look like.
It's like John Krasinski as Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, here you go. You got it. Now shut the fuck up.
But I'm a huge Donald Glover fan, so I'm just happy to see him in anything. So the fact that they got him in this to be the pro, I thought was pretty fucking cool.
Yeah.
And a shout out to the PS4 Spider-Man.
Yep.
Voiced by...
Yeah, same one.
Cool. Yeah, so seeing...
You really had every Spider... And we get Andy Samberg as Ben Reilly Spider-Man, which...
That was the one that took me a second. When he first started talking, I was like, that voice sounds familiar, but I can't tell. But then he said another one. I was like, Jesus Christ.
I knew it instantly. Yeah. I heard it. It was the spot that I went, is this... what's his name? Jorma Tacone from Lonely Island?
He's
Vulture.
But yeah, he's Vulture, yeah.
But I swore he was Spot, and then it was like Jason Schwartzman. I was like,
I knew Jason Schwartzman immediately.
Oh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah. Let's talk about the Spot.
Yeah.
I've never seen the Spot before. I don't know anything about the Spot. In this movie, the Spot's great.
Pretty cool.
I love the Spot.
Yeah.
Cool power, cool design.
Ties in
from villain of the week to horrifying super
world-ending monster. Yeah,
really, really cool,
and was able to tie into Spider-Man's previous adventure well. Even though it's like not really a retcon, but it's like, yeah, this was just happening off screen because, we only follow Spider-Man. We only know the things that Spider-Man knows. So you don't know the outcome of him doing this big thing and fucking other people over and creating villains, which is very typical of Spider-Man.
Yeah. Him fighting the Spot, like that whole sequence early in the film, it just made me wish like that if the PlayStation universe goes forward and there's Spider-Man 2 that's happening, and then there's going to be Spider-Man 3. If there's Miles Morales spin-off games, like I don't necessarily need Miles Morales to be tied to the Spider-Verse, but fighting the Spot is a sequence I want to play.
Yeah.
I want to fight a guy who I can punch him in the chest and my own fist will punch him in the face. That's so cool.
Ooh.
And jumping through things.
See,
I think that'd be a really fun gaming sequence. Fighting a guy who has that power.
You fight him and he jumps back and he throws a bunch of spots out and you actually have to look because each of them will show you what you can see on the other side and you have to pick the right one and like aim your web at it and then it will go through the proper portal, hit him in the face, run up and punch him. Yeah. That'll be cool.
They can do some fun stuff.
Yeah. I like his design. He's like kind of a mannequin, like not a mannequin. What are those things called that artists use? That like you put them in poses so they can get like a you know what I'm talking about though. He's like that mixed with Rorschach. Yeah. I really enjoyed that and him tying him up like he's like suspended in the air, like tied to his own feet and wrists. I thought that was great.
Yeah. There's a ton of cool ideas in here. I loved the Matrix spider that like sends them back to their own dimensions. That horrifying. So
it was like mechanical but still fleshy.
It was about fleshy.
Yeah, it looked like it was like a bio-organic thing.
I just thought it looked like a robot.
No, it had glands.
Very the Matrix to me.
Yeah,
super kind of scary.
Yeah, it was gross. Spider-Punk, the big standout. I know. I was just saying.
He's my favorite new addition.
It's amazing. Like
Daniel Kaluuya, however you say his name, I love that. He's one of my favorite actors right now. I'm pumped that he's in this.
He's really good, and I know we were just talking about like it being a little busy, and he's like the busiest character so much, but a really interesting animation style. I want to be in this world because I want to know what that looks like in real life. I want to be Donald Glover looking at cartoons that are like I can touch a cartoon, but their background and their colors are changing. It's very impressive, but it did add up, a bit more chaos to everything. You know who I think is like, I think Miguel O'Hara is fun and interesting, but I wanted to know more. I'm sure we'll get more in the next one. But all the Spider-Mans are so fun and jokey, and he's so damn serious. And I wish we spent a little more time with him. And then his number 2, pregnant motorcycle Spider-Man, so wasted. We don't know anything about her. She seemed like such a missed opportunity for, I don't know, maybe with Miles or with Gwen, but it's just, who's she pregnant by? How did she become a Spider-Woman? Why did she use a motorcycle? It seemed like Jessica Drew, I think is her name.
Yeah.
Like, we just need to put someone in. She seems good enough. She's one of the more popular ones. Okay, we'll make her the number 2. But they don't do anything with her. So hopefully she gets fleshed out.
Like tie it to race or gender or anything, but especially if she is pregnant, she has that motherly aspect, because typically Peter Parker has been tied to Aunt May, but really most of his villains are, men, and it's very men-centered. So here's a motherly woman of color who can like talk to Gwen in a certain way that maybe the Peter Parkers can't, and you can talk to Miles in a certain way other Peter Parkers can't, because she has a connection to both of those in a different way, which you necessarily didn't have to go that route, but you could have used in that way to sort of give her something to do, other than just kind of like being the character that they appeal to, because Miguel's not hearing us. Maybe you do in your number 2. And she's like, all right, kid, we'll give you a shot. But yeah, I agree. They didn't really do much with her, which maybe we'll get a little bit more of her in the third one. I don't think we will. But I see why Miguel is the serious one, because he has to, because everything's on his shoulders to fix, because he's the guy with all the tech, and he's the one who destroyed a universe because of he wanted to be with the family he never had.
Now, like, what if Miles didn't sneak into their base right behind Gwen? What was he gonna do with Miles? What was Miguel O'Hara gonna do to fix the problem of that spider that bit you was not supposed to bite you, was supposed to bite someone in another universe? Your Spider-Man would have lived, but since that did happen, it's not like it became unmade. Was he going to kill Miles? Was he going to force Miles into the other dimension to kind of have penance for it? Like,
no, I think he would just leave those 2 universes alone, because both those Miles were in the right universe, so they weren't causing any anomalies. The anomaly was, like he got bit by the spider from a different universe, but they were still in their respective worlds. It was just like, okay, well, this world just doesn't have a Spider-Man, and this world has the wrong Spider-Man.
So yeah, but was it supposed to be Miles in that other one that was supposed to be bitten, or would a different Peter Parker have been bitten in that?
Answer. Yeah.
So, I mean, and if they said, like, yeah, the Miles of that world was supposed to become Spider-Man, but you did instead, so there's still a balance of the right or a Miles turned into a Spider-Man. It's just in the wrong universe, and it balances it enough. But if it was supposed to be, Peter Parker was supposed to get bit, but you took it, and now this one has 2 Spider-Man, and that one had none, that seems like it throws off the balance, and one of them should have been unmade because of their canon events.
Man, and this is what I'm talking about, where like, if you really start looking at it, there's probably some technical, and that's always the thing with sci-fi and multiverse. It's mumbo jumbo that's really hard to explain.
Yeah. Okay, so we cut to like a Lego world, and there's a Lego Spider-Man.
You're one of our best.
If that Spider-Man came to one of the other worlds, would he be as big as a Lego, or would he be a size but just look like a Lego?
I would like to think he'd be us size, but
really? Oh, see, I think he would just be a regular tiny Lego.
Oh well, I think you're right, actually, because we would be used to seeing that as
because like the T-Rex is just regular T-Rex size. He's not a human-sized T-Rex or anything. Because I thought that was going to come back. Like, someone would be in trouble and they're about to die, and then suddenly they're taking a bunch of hits, and they're like, what's going on? And it would zoom in, and little Lego Spider-Man is kicking his ass.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Spider-Man of all of them in there? Not necessarily just a character, but it could just be something in the background.
And it's hard because I don't know Spider-Man that way. There's a lot of really cool designs. Some of them are like super buff, and there was like an orange one instead of red. It was orange. It's like, that's kind of cool. But of the ones I know, I really do like the Ben Reilly Scarlet Spider look, where he's just kind of all red, but he's wearing the blue hoodie or the blue sleeveless. There's just something about it. I just really like that one.
Yeah, it's simple, but it just looks odd.
And it's a bad like moment in comics. That's not a well-loved Spider-Man, so I get why people hate on it, but I don't know. There's something about it I really like.
I want to take a moment to shout out the music of this. 2099's theme song is fucking awesome. It
I
reminded
have
me
no
of
idea.
the Prometheus kind of sound. You remember?
Oh, yeah.
It's like almost an alarm.
Yeah.
I don't know. Some of his intro song is fucking cool.
But I think the music in general doesn't hit the same as the first one. There's like really iconic songs for that movie, and I don't think there is anything for this.
Well, I'm just talking about the score, but in terms of in terms of soundtrack, I would agree that it's not as strong, but I think all the songs they chose worked really well. Let's see. I guess we can talk about I'll say one thing, and then we can talk about the end. Peter's daughter, Mayday, pulling down that little Spider-Man. It's like, you ready to go, kid? And she just pulls down a little crochet beanie. So adorable. Yeah. I love that.
And don't make her a web shooter. If she can climb on walls, that's enough of a hassle for a kid.
What kind of parenting are you
doing? Giving it a web shooter? Moron.
You know what's the most terrifying thing for a parent? When the kid just disappears. Oh, I gave the kid the ability to fly out the window at a moment. Why would you do that? Anyway, so let's talk about the ending.
Okay.
So Miles gets away from all the Spider-Men who are chasing him and gets into the creepy Matrix spider machine and is going to go back to his homeworld to save his dad, who is seemingly destined to die by the hands of the Spot, launching him into his Canonverse. And instead, he goes back to the wrong world.
He goes back to the world where the spider came from.
Where the spider came from.
Yeah. Which I did not remember it coming from a different world.
I don't think it did.
No, I think now afterward, I think it does. I think when they're first testing Kingpin's collider machine, it slips through. I'd have to rewatch it.
Well, yeah, I'd have to rewatch it. Yeah, you might be right. That makes sense. So Miles goes to the wrong universe, the universe from the original Spider, and runs into his mom and
confesses who he is.
He says, "I'm Spider-Man." She's like, "Who's that?" He's like, "Huh?" And his uncle Aaron is still alive, and it is like, "All right, kid, let's go do that thing we're gonna go do." And of course, his uncle's like, "On to him."
Yeah, like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah, and so we meet the Miles of this universe, who has become the new Prowler, which I like. It still looks like a Spider-Man suit, but with the Prowler design to it,
the little collar,
really cool. And that's your cliffhanger: is Miles has to face the evil version of himself. That this is what would happen in a world where there is no Spider-Man in this world. Miles turns bad,
or doesn't have his father to help guide him,
and his father's dead.
Yeah, I did not see that coming. I think it's a perfect place to go, but I didn't ever even think, hey, what happened to that world where that spider left? Didn't cross my mind. So very interesting.
So in this next one, he's got to defeat the Spot, who may kill his dad. He's got to get back to his homeworld at the current moment he can't get back to, and he may have to defeat himself as a villain.
But that should be easy. You have the powers of Spider-Man. Prowler doesn't have any enhancements that we know of.
Has tech.
He has tech. And it's like, yeah, you're the same age, same height. You're stronger. You're faster. You could defeat him. This shouldn't be a problem.
I know we're jumping back to the very beginning, but let's talk about tech for a second. Okay. How did the Renaissance Vulture take on 3 Spider-Men? Spider people?
When you're made of paper? I don't know.
It just seems like, how did somebody from the future... Somebody who has a motorcycle, and then Gwen Stacy, and they're just having trouble with the bird guy, who a bunch of Spider-Men take on single-handedly, but he's really giving them the run of the mill. Yeah. But anyway, I'm very much looking forward to the third one. I had a great time with this movie. I do have my nitpicks, and I think it doesn't have the same heart as the first one. I think the first one was a little bit more emotionally resonant, but I think the third one, seemingly, if it is the closer, will have the heart I was looking for. We'll wrap up the storylines, and will be, once again, a visual splendor to behold.
Yeah, it's just, you've gone to 11. You could bring it back to 10. 10 was good. Doesn't need to be as eye-piercingly busy.
Oh, and we also have the little bit at the end where Gwen is going on her mission to go find Miles because no one knows where he is. And we see Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham, pretty much all the original people from the first movie, and now teamed up with the people from the new movie.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, there's a whole Spider team. And I'm glad they bring him back because Spider-Ham was a lot of fun in the first movie, and I think Spider-Man Noir is my favorite Spider-Man. I just love his look.
Well, let's hope the Spider-Man Noir show or movie gets to happen, but it's on hold.
One last question before we finish up. Do you have a favorite joke in this movie? Because I have a favorite joke. And it's not a joke anyone else would care, but me.
I'm gonna say no because there's sometimes people are speaking so fast and in succession, I lose. Not that it was hard to follow, but it's like I didn't hear what he had to say. We're moving on to the next thing. It's some of the dialogue moves so quick, so I don't recall really any jokes. I knew there had to be.
What's your thought?
No, I just don't recall any jokes offhand. No.
Okay. My favorite joke is it's just a background joke, and there's a big red dot with a name and it just says soda, and the tagline is it's just a generic brand.
I did see that. Yeah.
That's just a me thing that only I care about, but that's my favorite joke in the movie.
Cool.
I'm Steve. All right.
So just wrap it up.
Yeah, just wrap it up.
Okay. Steve had to run off to take care of his spawn, so we're going to just wrap it up there. We both... What the fuck? If you want to reach us, we are at WRPLpodcast@gmail.com on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Hit us up. Who was your favorite Spider-Man? What kind of Spider-Man do you want to see in the future? Did you think this was a little too much, a little too busy? Let us know. As always, I'm Ben. He was Steve. And keep consuming.
Butt smuggling's not just for planes, There's other modes of transportation. The butt's a very safe spot.